After months of anticipation, the game action will officially return for the Seahawks on Saturday as they open their preseason against the Chargers. What will we be watching at SoFi Stadium? We're going to be breaking it all down in our game preview here on our Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Glad to be joined here on Blue Friday by my co-host, Nick Lee, and a special thanks to all the 12s who are listening in. Whether you're tuning in from Fargo, North Dakota, or Boston, Massachusetts, we greatly appreciate each and every one of you for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We finally have game action coming up tomorrow. The Seahawks flying down to LA to battle Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. There should be a bit more intensity in a first preseason game than we normally see with Mike Macdonald going up against Jim Harbaugh, his former head coach when he was the defensive coordinator at Michigan. We're going to be discussing what to watch in the first exhibition contest for the new season. We're going to have our picks to click. Nick and I always get fired up for that. Offense, defense, might even throw some special teams in there in this first preseason game. And we'll be joined by Dee Williams, the undrafted rookie corner out of Tennessee, to discuss his first NFL training camp, the new kickoff rules, and much more. This episode is brought your way by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now for your lead story here on our Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. The Mike Macdonald era will be taking the next step towards the regular season when the Seahawks battle the Chargers in the preseason opener on Saturday afternoon at SoFi Stadium. Nick, obviously preseason games, we don't know how many starters are going to play. We know Geno Smith is not playing, but it sounds like Mike Macdonald has interest in playing more starters than what Pete Carroll has in past seasons, and it makes sense. You got new schemes that you're trying to install. You haven't gotten a real game look at any of your players. So we're anticipating that we're going to see a fair number of starters going to this game, starting on the offensive side of the football. There's a number of storylines we could discuss here, but what are you going to be watching for on offense in tomorrow's preseason opener?
Well, I know, that Ryan Grubb's offense in this week one, or this preseason week one, it's going to look like the ice cream I prefer with a pile of raspberries in a bowl. Very vanilla. Which I don't know why that means boring and, routine. I love vanilla. Vanilla is a fantastic ice cream. Anyway, it's going to look like that. And so it's going to be hard to glean a ton from that. But I'm going to watch, obviously we have the big three in the receiver room between DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Those are the top three. And it's a fairly sizable gap after that, which, you have one of the three best, trios in the entire NFL collectively. Who emerges beyond that? I know we have the Jake Bobo experience with trademark under the, in all caps, the Jake Bobo experience. Of course, I am really looking forward to that. The sequel, the preseason sequel to the Jake Bobo experience. But also, who becomes that darling, maybe in the receiver room? Aesop Winston, Laviska Shenault, we'll talk about, I'm sure, later. Derek Young, I think, is making a strong case. And, it's will D. Eskridge do anything ever? I'll just leave it at that. Or, Hayden Hatton, 1,200 receiving yards back-to-back years at Idaho was uber productive. I saw Greg Bell tweeting about how Cody White is already better than D. Eskridge. He's looked better in camp. So the underbelly of the receiver depth chart could be an interesting watch. Obviously, your top three guys, you're not going to see, 8 targets from DK Metcalf or something against the Chargers on Saturday. But I do want to see the Jake Bobo and company, collective group of receivers who rises to that occasion, who can cement themselves as wide receiver 4. I think that's going to be Bobo probably, but wide receiver 4, 5, and 6.
I'm going to go with what might be deemed the low-hanging fruit here. Sam Howell is making his first start as a Seahawk, and I know it's a preseason game, but Geno Smith's not playing. Sam Howell's got 2 years left in his contract. If you think there's a chance that he could be a starter down the line, I haven't seen anything in training camp that suggests that that would be the right move because I think Geno Smith's got a lot of good football left in it. But at the same time, you need to evaluate Sam Howell. And you made that trade with the idea, hey, there's a possibility we may turn to him as our starting quarterback. You've got to see how he handles game situations running Ryan Grubb's offense. Even in these games, if it's going to be vanilla, you're still running Ryan Grubb's offense. And I have been encouraged by what I have seen from Sam Howell the last couple of practices. He looks like he is in better command of the offense. He isn't as erratic with his accuracy. He did hit the Boeing side of the sideline again the other day. We have a running count of how many times he's done that, which that should tell you all you need to know. But his accuracy's been much better the last couple of practices. He seems like he's just more comfortable, more confident running this offense, unless Dee Eskridge is dropping passes, which unfortunately happened a bunch on Tuesday's practice. So his receivers have let him down some. I want to see what Sam Howell looks like out there, who he's going to be throwing to. I'm expecting players like Jake Bobo are going to play. I don't know if any of the big three receivers are going to play in this game, but I want to see how he plays with some starters around him going against the Chargers in this preseason game. And this is going to be the best litmus test they're going to get because you're hoping Geno Smith stays healthy and he starts every game, plays every snap. This is going to be your evaluation tape with Sam Howell is these preseason games. So I really want to see what he looks like in this game. And can he build off the momentum he's gained with much better practices here to end this week than what we saw early in training camp. Now, on the defensive side of the football, I know there's one position group in particular that both of us are really excited about, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about the cornerbacks because that seems like a position that still could have some positions on the depth chart that are up for grabs potentially.
Yeah, much like I feel like it is mirroring the receiver room a little bit, where you have the clear-cut top tier, guys, the Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon, of course, and Mike Jackson. You can throw in there. Trey Brown's had a grumpy but good training camp. Who steps up in the next tier? The Auburn duo, the Auburn corners, Nehemiah Pritchett and DJ James. What do they do with their opportunity? Carlton Johnson is another one that's is certainly worth a watch. The guys like Willie Roberts and Dee Williams that we'll speak to later. Who in that group? Where are they lining up? Who's making a play? I really am curious because this is one of the deeper, if not the deepest part of this team is the cornerback room. I know some couple guys are banged up, like Mike Jackson, it's going to be it's kind of the receivers versus the cornerbacks, and that's been something I've been really interested in all camp because I do think those are your two most talented rooms, and there's only so many spots. And so with the cornerback room, who rises, in that second tier. I'm looking for guys, especially like those two Auburn rookies. I know you've had your eye on Carlton Johnson as well. So of those guys, who can have the best game on Saturday?
And I also think Artie Burns is going to get quite a few snaps too.
Right.
And we saw what he was able to do in the preseason last year with Trey Brown and Mike Jackson not expected to play in this game. Going to be a lot of snaps for Artie Burns and for these rookies to try to prove their worth in a very crowded cornerback room. Our listeners are going to think I'm just going for low-hanging fruit, but why would we not talk about Byron Murphy II? We finally get to see him in game action. And look, I had to go with this one because I have been at every training camp practice except for the mock scrimmage. I've been at every practice. I was at OTAs, was at rookie minicamp, and there's just something. This guy is one of those players when it doesn't take long. You just figure out that dude's DNA is different. He is wired different. And once the pads came on, the first couple of training camp practices when they were still in OTA mode, Byron Murphy II was kind of, you could watch the speed, the quickness, all that stuff in the drills, but you didn't really get a sense that he was off to a fast start. The pads came out and then suddenly here's Byron Murphy II. Bull rushing dudes, quick through the gaps, powering his way past guys with rip moves, swim moves. Byron Murphy II has been as much fun as any player to watch in this training camp since the pads came out. And so now we get that next step where not only does he get to play physically in the trenches, but he gets to tackle dudes and he gets to try to make plays on quarterbacks and running backs. So, yes, I am very excited to watch Byron Murphy II in his first game action. Mike Macdonald said he's going to play a lot. He should. He's a rookie. He needs the experience. And that is good news for everybody that's watching this preseason game. I expect number 91 is going to start for the Seahawks in this game, and we're going to get to see a lot of snaps. So I'm fired up to see Byron Murphy II make his debut and show the rest of the world, hopefully, what we've been seeing at training camp and turn it in a game. performance. Up next, we're going to continue previewing our preseason opener, Seahawks versus Chargers, with our first picks to click of the 2024 season. Who do Nick and I think are going to have big games at SoFi Stadium? We'll get to that up next here on our Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. This episode of Locked On Seahawks is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what bring home the winning trophy, and it also keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to MVP performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, windshield wiper fluid, whatever you're needing, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because the eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith, joined on today's show by my co-host, Nick Lee, and a special thanks to all the 12s who are listening in. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. And for your second listen, make sure to enjoy the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast. Get daily insight to the best fantasy draft strategies so you can win your league this season. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Seahawks opening their preseason schedule tomorrow down at SoFi Stadium against the Chargers with new head coach Jim Harbaugh. There's a little bit of familiarity here. Jim Harbaugh was the head coach at Michigan when Mike Macdonald was the defensive coordinator a few years ago, and obviously Mike Macdonald coached for John Harbaugh in Baltimore. So you've got all these different dynamics. Mike Morris played for both Jim Harbaugh and Mike Macdonald. He gets to play against his former head coach. There's a lot of reasons why this could be a more intense preseason opener than we typically see when the Seahawks and the Chargers get together tomorrow. Nick, let's get to our picks to click, and we'll start on the offensive side of the football. And preseason games, I almost think this is more fun than it is in the regular season because you have a lot more players to choose from. We don't necessarily who's going to play, how many snaps are going to be played by those players. So that adds more mystery to trying to pick who's going to be the Troy Maine Pope in this first preseason game.
Ooh, good pull. It is more fun because towards the end of the year last year, it was like, okay, who's the pick to click? DK, Tyler, Jackson Smith-Njigba, or Ken Walker III. It was pretty much, we were rotating through those guys. I know that's not fair. There are a lot of guys that did well, but that's kind of how it felt. I'm going to go with a guy that you've been really excited about. You've been on him from the jump, from a school that you like watching, George Holani, running back out of Boise State. He's clearly made an impression early in camp. He's pushing, if not more so, Kenny McIntosh for that running back 3 position. This guy that the profile wise, had, I think it was 1,100 or 1,200 rushing yards in 2022, not quite as many last year, but really productive running back at Boise State. I think he's like their 3rd or 4th all-time rusher at Boise State, and explosive with some numbers at broad jump and vertical in the over 90th percentile. He's got some explosiveness, maybe not as much shimmy and wiggle and top end size or top end speed, but just some of the instincts we've seen there. And that's what you want in a guy that's a possible RB3, natural pass catcher. Pass protection is probably something I'm going to be really watching for because that's been kind of hit and miss, at least in his college tape. And, the reports have been pretty good in camp. I want to see that when in the foxhole, so to speak, against the Chargers on Saturday. So give me George Holani, get some, maybe break out a big run or two, some key blocks on pass protection, maybe a key, first down on a screen or something like that. He'll make a few plays because that sounds like that's what he's been doing most of camp.
Yeah, he's had a really good camp. He was on my short list, but I'm going to go with a player who has kind of under the radar had a really good training camp. He just scored a 35-yard touchdown in the last padded practice. Laviska Shenault, and totally different situation. You're talking about a former second-round pick. George Holani's an undrafted rookie, but Shenault had 2 really quiet injury-marred seasons in Carolina, so he's kind of trying to hit the reset button a little bit, but this guy's still only 25 years old, even though he's got 4 years of NFL experience. he is every bit 6'2", 220, 225 pounds. Like, he is a big dude. Basically, he is turning into what the Seahawks were hoping that Dee Eskridge was going to be when they drafted him, even though he's a much different body type. Very similar player in the sense that you throw the ball out to him on a screen, he can break tackles, create yardage. He's got 50 career carries, so you can include him in your run game, and not just with jet sweeps like what Dee Eskridge has been doing. You can put him in the backfield and run whatever you want with him. He's got a running back style to him. And he is an underrated downfield receiver. He's had several big plays in his training camp. He had a 70-yard touchdown early in camp that he caught from Sam Howell, and then he had that 35-yard touchdown that he had on Wednesday. He and Howell seem to be clicking. So this is a player that now in a complementary role, he brings some unique skills that maybe Seattle's other receivers don't necessarily provide that they were hoping Eskridge is going to bring. And also, I'm making him a pick to click because special teams, we're going to get to see Laviska Shenault return at least one kick in this new kickoff rules on Saturday. And I have a feeling that with that running back background, he is going to be a really good fit for those new kickoff rules. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I know that you initially were thinking Trey Brown, and that would have made sense, but Trey Brown is a little bit banged up, missed practice on Thursday. Doesn't look like he's going to play in this game. So what direction are you going to go without Trey Brown suiting up on Saturday?
Well, looking around at guys that could be big contributors down the line in the regular season games, maybe a guy that's, has an opportunity due to injury. That's Tyrese Knight, rookie 4th rounder out of UTEP. Really, it's one of those where, Jerome Baker's been down for a bit, and it's all right, kid, go get him. Go from the UTEP linebacker, 140 tackles last year, going from the UTEP to possibly starting in the NFL, 8-9 months apart. That's pretty impressive. So I want to see what he can do. I mean, he's got all the tools you want. The coaches have been very complimentary of Tyrese Knight, but throwing in a rookie and possibly, with Jerome Baker's injury, possibly him having a significant role early in the season. We don't quite know how long Jerome Baker's going to be out quite yet, but just getting those feet wet, in your first NFL action, the speed's different. Even as Corbin, when you go from college to training camp to preseason to regular season, those are like 4 different speeds of football. So you want to get that ratcheted up to a bit more here in a preseason game to see how he processes things, the run fits, tackling. He's been passing pretty much everything with flying colors in training camp, but this is another beast. Going from UTEP to that, I'm really curious to see how he handles it. I think he's up to the challenge. That's why he's my pick to click. I do think that he is up to the challenge, that he could, push, God forbid there's injuries ravaged throughout the linebackers, and he's pretty much forced to play a really significant part of the regular season. This will be a good indicator that he could and can do that. I expect him to have, a nice healthy dose of tackles. I don't know. Maybe you're going to get crazy.
Hey, he's got a running back build. Like, I'm okay with it. Let's go.
A healthy dose of tackles in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the secondary, and I'm going to surprise some of our listeners because you would think one of the draft picks at the cornerback position would be my pick to click. But I don't think this is a hot take for people that have been at training camp. I think Carlton Johnson's been the best rookie corner for the Seahawks in training camp. I don't think it's been Nehemiah Pritchett. I don't think it's been DJ James. I think it's been Carlton Johnson. And he has really come on the last week or so. He had a 5 pass breakup day the other day on Tuesday. Wednesday, he kept it rolling, had a couple really nice thuds. You obviously don't get to bring him to the ground, but came up and showed some physicality that I wasn't expecting. Had a couple pass breakups in that practice, got chippy with Dee Eskridge. Like, he kind of fits the mentality that Mike Macdonald seems to be looking for. So Carlton Johnson, I mean, there are very few people on this earth that can run a 4.28 40-yard dash. Carlton Johnson is one of them. He is one of the 3 fastest players on Seattle's roster. We have seen that speed and his ability to break on the football as of late. I could see him getting his hands on the football for pass breakups or maybe even an interception. In fact, I'm going to call it. He's going to get an interception in this game. I think Carlton Johnson is a player to keep a very close eye on that the coaching staff seems to be getting more intrigued by as this training camp goes on. So he's the corner that I'm going to be watching closely. He's my pick to click. And Could even see him make some plays on special teams as well. He just kind of has that pest mentality that you're always looking for at the cornerback position. He brings that, and he's also got the elite speed, the best of the best speed, which it's always fun to watch guys like that in the preseason that have those rare athletic traits, especially the undrafted ranks, guys that do have those tools that very few other players are going to bring to the table. Up next, one of the players who could be in the running for a spot on the 53-man roster due to the new special teams rules is Dee Williams. He's moved from receiver to corner midway during training camp, and he's made his own plays in the secondary so far in camp. Caught up with Dee Williams. We're going to have that interview coming up next here on our Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Locked On Seahawks is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's the first thing you do if you had an extra hour in your day? For me, I wish I had a bit more time to paint and draw. The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find what matters to you so you can do more of it. And BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at BetterHelp.com/lockedon. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is the tools to help find the right professionals to add to your team. It's faster and it's free. Now that I'm a site manager, again, LinkedIn Jobs is my go-to to post writing positions to land top candidates. They've made the process easy and seamless. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They've got a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. The hiring is so easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resource to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, it's quick, and it's easy. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster and for free. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Blue Friday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm your host, Corbin Smith, joined on today's show by my co-host, Nick Lee, and a special thanks to all the 12s out there. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. We were just diving in our picks to click, Nick, and a couple of undrafted players who have been standouts in Seahawks training camp. George Halani at the running back position, Carlton Johnson at cornerback. I want to throw another name into the ring here. Dee Williams, who is a fascinating story coming from Tennessee. He barely played offense or defense for the Volunteers. They had him at receiver for a little while. He was at corner for a little while. But he was the best punt returner in the nation at Tennessee. Averaged almost 16 yards per punt return over the last 2 years. Had 2 touchdowns against SEC competition. He was a guy that teams started to kick the ball out of bounds because they were scared to kick to him. And we know the new kick return rules in place. We know the value of punt returning still in the NFL. And Dee Williams has moved to corner after starting at receiver at the beginning of training camp. And he really has flourished at that cornerback spot. He's had a number of big plays. One of the pass deflections Carlton Johnson had in Tuesday's practice ended up being caught for an interception by Dee Williams. So this guy has not only made a opportunity for himself here on special teams, but he's also been vastly better than we expected to see at the cornerback spot, where he was at one point a JUCO All-American before going to Tennessee.
Yeah, just a really cool story. Like you mentioned, the 15.4 yards per punt return actually broke I think it was like a 70-year-old record at Tennessee.
Yep.
Just which, you're talking, just after World War II. So that's significant that he was that proficient and efficient of a returner. And going from the pro day to catching passes from Joe Milton and going through cornerback drills. I mean, talk about, jack of all trades. And it's never a bad thing to have a guy like this on your roster, even if for now he probably is if he does make the roster, it'll probably be because he's a returner. maybe not as like a shutdown corner type. That does not mean that he can't continue to develop and become, maybe a really good depth piece at cornerback. Let's not totally discount that yet, like you mentioned. So yeah, I'm really excited to see his development. And another one that I really want to watch during the preseason, maybe he gets an opportunity to return some kicks and punts. Maybe he gets an opportunity on defense. Wherever number 33 is going to be bouncing around the field will be fun to watch, because he's one of those versatile guys that can really, he's a two-way player really in the college, in the football sense. And or maybe three-way if you count.
He's a three-way player. Yeah, I mean you know what the saying is, Nick, the more that you can do, the better off you're going to be trying to make an NFL roster. And he might be the player I'm most intrigued to watch on special teams with these new rules, because he is going to get his opportunities as a kick returner. He's going to get his opportunities as a punt returner. I can't wait to see what number 33 is going to do. And he also is a fantastic young man, really good interview. Had a chance to chat with him at the VMAC about everything from the new special teams rules to playing cornerback, how that conversation went going from receiver to corner, and much more. Take a listen. First training camp, what's it been like getting to adjust to the NFL, and how much did playing in an SEC school like Tennessee make that process a little easier?
It's been a lot of challenging parts of it. I came in and started out on the offense side of the ball, and things just didn't go as planned. It's as soon as I got here, so the best way for me to adapt to that was to go to the defense side of the ball. Coming from SEC, especially Tennessee, there was a lot of fast movements with the offense and defense side of the ball. So I kind of adjusted to that pretty fast here when I got here. But so far it's been good on the defense side of the ball, making plays and celebrating those plays that I'm making and cheering on my other teammates as well.
Would you say that you're a lot more comfortable playing on the defensive side of the ball since that you played corner when you were in junior college before you went to Tennessee? Is it just more natural for you?
Yeah, it is. I just do less overthinking and just go out there and obviously know my role and know how to make plays and where to be and just be comfortable out there. So I just quickly just play faster on the defense side of the ball.
How did that conversation go with the coaching staff? Because I believe it was the first couple of practices that you were wearing the offensive jersey. Did they just approach you like, "Hey, we want to give you more opportunities"? Or
just being on the offense side of the ball, they really was just trying to figure out how my role of play would help on offense, but it just quite didn't go as planned as I thought it would, or as they thought it would. But I was okay with it. I was fine with it. And when I went to the defense side of the ball, Coach Scott coached one of my old teammates from Tennessee, so he already caught me up with the background and how he knew of me and everything else. So I get along with both sides of the coach as well, but both sides of the ball with my teammates as well too. So it's been pretty good on that side of the ball.
How much has it helped having a really talented group of veterans in front of you, whether it's Devin Witherspoon or guys like Mike Jackson, who's been in the league now for, I think this is his 5th or 6th year, and just continues to hang around longer than people think he's going to. Just guys like that have been tested in the league, and they've played in this system for Carl Scott, the one coach that's still here from last year.
Yeah, it's been good. I sit there in the meeting rooms and learn from each and every one of the guys, and I know they want me to be the best I can, and I just sit in the meeting room and listen and pay attention to their role and what's new to learn. There's always something new to learn in and out of the meeting room. So whatever I take from them, I just go out there and use it on the field. But it's a blessing having them type of guys or vets to look up to before games or before practice.
What's it been like from a technique standpoint, playing on the outside? What have been the changes that you've had? Obviously, you played some corner at Tennessee, but how different has it been with Carl Scott in terms of the techniques that they're teaching?
It's really kind of similar to Tennessee, so it wasn't really anything hard for me to catch on to it. It's a lot of small things you just have to be patient with, and obviously when the ball is coming your way, just take advantage of making the play. But as far as technique wise, it's kind of similar to how it was when I was at Tennessee.
I got to ask you real quick about the special teams, the kick return. Obviously, punt returns were your real specialty at Tennessee, but what are your thoughts on the new kick return and having the blockers so close to you and possibly having different body types? How has that changed in terms of what you're doing from a return standpoint? Because it looks to me like it's more like a run play.
Correct. It's a bit different. It's different from like how it was a couple years back, but I think it's a great opportunity for me to make plays, and honestly, I feel like it happened at the right time for me to get on the special teams, kick return and punt return to make plays. But it's very challenging, but it's also going to be like an open window for with a good returner back there. So.
You get to play in your first NFL game on Saturday. What are you looking to accomplish here with the preseason, and what are you looking to show the coaching staff here now that they've seen you on the practice field for a few weeks?
Really to just go out there and play with confidence and always keep God first, and just not overthink. Just go out there and just hustle to the ball every play, and obviously make plays on the special teams as well to show them like I'm not just a one-sided ball player. Like I can play any side or any position on the field, so just go out there and have confidence and just do the best I can to the best of my ability.
As always, you can follow me on X and Threads at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Nick at Nick Lee 51. And make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. When we return tomorrow, we are going to have a post-game show. Connor Benintendi and I will be diving into what we saw Seahawks versus Chargers preseason opener. Hopefully be chatting about a exhibition victory, but we'll see when we get there. Make sure that you're listening in. That'll be coming shortly after the conclusion of the game. Enjoy the contest. Enjoy your weekend, and go Hawks.